Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial where I'll be explaining to you how to integrate ShieldEye into your application so that you can manually create log, then further them to investigation or if you detect any suspicious activities. So in this demo, I have ShieldEye logger.js. So this is file that help in creating and structuring your logs. We have server.js, you actually know what it does. So, and we have db.js for connection between your application and your MongoDB account, and the environment variable. So let me explain about ShieldEye to you. This is how ShieldEye is being structured. I recommend that you don't modify it so that it won't affect how log is being moved to your MongoDB and display on the ShieldEye platform. So I recommend you leave it the way it is and just copy and paste. So the first thing to redo is to import UUID dependency into your project, and also create your ShieldEye.js. You have to import connection log.db, depends on how you build it, and also you have to import the dot environment so that you can bring in variable from your environment variable. So this is how ShieldEye has been structured. First thing to note is the request. So this tells us information we are getting from the request about the user request, the type of request, the method of request, the URL, and we also have the response, which is telling us the response we are getting from the user request. When you scroll down, you will see that there's a user information. This user information is automatically get from the request, so it gives us more details about the user that is making this request. For example, we can tell you what the user is trying to get, like the method of the making the request. See now in the user ID, it tells us about the user identity. So if it is defined in your app, it will tell us the user ID. It's going to tell us the IP address of this user and the method of making request, the endpoint URL of the request, and the status code of the response of the request. It also tells us about the user agent of the request. So this user session is automatically taken from the request, which is from the network. So let me tell you about the others that we manually structure. For example, this event type tells us the type of events that happen in the application. The level tells us about the severity of the event or logs, and category help us to categorize our log so that when you are investigating, you can list the log according to their categories, and it helps us a lot. We have stocks too that tell us more about where the issue is coming from. We have message that tell us what actually happened in a human readable format, and we have stacks that tell us more about the error, their stages, and we have tags that give us more info about the logs. So this is being structured and is what we are going to give more info about. But so the request and the response is getting from the network, so you don't need to go much. So when you check down here, the other function that is error events is actually help us to create an event, which, for example, if there's an error, there's a crash or there's a malfunction in our system, so it will tell us that there's a crash in our system. So it automatically generates the error event. So for example, there was a developer I know that created a system. So in this system, user access is resources, and before they can access it, they have to pay for the resources they are taking. So there was a time, and it doesn't even know, because a particular user was trying to make a payment using one of the method he defined. It was a various method, but there was a particular method that was not actually working, and the user does not even know that the thing is not even working. It just show error, and the developer does not know because it can't detect. And actually what make this issue to come up is because there is a mistake in the API. So there was a misconfiguration in the API that actually make this payment method not going through, and it has been long and the developer does not know. So there was a time he was trying to fix something, and in himself try to use that method because it's very simple method to make payment. Then he realized that the payment is not going through until he debug and was finally see that there was a misconfiguration in the API. So you can see, assuming this developer have ShieldEye to monitor it, to create log, it will be easy for him, and he will have detected this long time ago. He won't bother to, it won't take long time for him to detect this error. So that's why error events will actually help us a lot to create error events for us to investigate or detect when our app crash due to some misconfiguration or any uncatch error. It assists us a lot. So this is how ShieldEye is being structured, and this is how it's going to create log for us. Then we can investigate our log. So just copy and paste and use it. In our server.js, I actually use one file to create everything. In your own end, you will have your middleware directory and your routing directory and other directory like controlling and other files. But when you are creating your event log, there's one thing you should have in mind, that just create them where there's an activities. For example, when a user creates their account, it will tell you that, oh, the user is trying to create an account. Then if a user deletes their account, you will able to see that a user actually delete their account. If a user reset their password or log out to their accounts or create a file, or for example, let's say user lay a complaint, you log all those things. So it assists in tracking and investigating when there's any suspicious activities. So I'm going to tell you how I manually create my own event logs. Actually, you know this, how to your importation and the necessary file to import. So for example, in my own first instance here, in the authentication middleware, I create an log event. So in your own end, this might be in another directory. So for my own demo, I'm using one file for everything. So now let's see how I manually create my log. In this authentication, the function is trying to authenticate the user token. So when there is an issue in the user token, an event log is being created. Create a log event when user token is invalid. So when the user tries to present his token to define itself, so it catch this error. You can see the event type is login field, because the user is trying to access his accounts and tell us who he said he is. So actually the authentication try to check if this login should be permit or the user should be allowed. So the error, the event type tell us what actually happened. The level tell us the severity, which is 1, telling us how severity it is. So the category tell us the log, what is actually doing, which is authentication. And the source is telling us that this is coming from authentication controller, so you can know where it's coming from. And the message is telling us failed login attempt from Mr. User, because it provide an invalid/forged token. So you can see the message actually tell us what actually happened, so we can see how the thing is being created. And the tag tell us more information, which is tag, authentication, and field login. So this actually give us more info about the log, even without even checking the details. We can see that this is about authentication and this is about field login. So this actually move this log to your database, and you can view them to investigate that there was a issue in your account. And the second one I create is when users sign up to their account. So we also create a log when a user create an account. You can see create a log event when user creates an account. So here, when a user creates an account, we want to log the events. So the event type here is there is a file profile creations. So the 11 is about info. So the category is coming from authentication. As yes, we are trying to verify the user to know if the user already exists or not. The source tell us about is coming from user controllers, and the message said a new profile created for Mr. User, and the tag is authentication and successful sign up. So this actually telling us about a user signing up to our account, creating a profile in our system. So when you log this, you can. One thing to notice that this category is authentication and the other one is auto authentication. So when you are defining your category and events log, make sure they are consistent. So it actually help you to see categorize your log, and you can verify and see how your log is being listed. So even though when there's a lot of file creation, it will tell you can filter them through with file events types. So the next one that I have here is when a user log into other accounts we are creating log events when user provide invalid credential. So when a user tries to log into the account with invalid credential, maybe password or username, we want to create the log event so that it can tell us what actually happened. For example, the event type is login failed, and you remember that the first event for authentication said login failed. Both of them is about login, so the event type is consistent. The other one is also logging in to access the account. You can see the level here is 1, and the category is coming from authentication. You can see they are consistent. The source is coming from authentication controller, and the message said failed login attempt for Mr. User because it provided invalid credential. So the difference between the first one and the second one is the invalid credential, and the authentication for the token is invalid/forged token. So that is the difference between the message actually tells us the difference between the two. So the user provide wrong credential, it's actually failed, and the other one, if the user provide forged token or invalid token, it was also failed. So when the user also provide correct password, we want to log the activities. So create log events when user successfully log in. So the event type is successful, login successful, level is info, category is authentication, the source is authentication controller, and the message said Mr. User successfully logging into their account, and the tag is authentication successful login. So actually I want to show you another log so that look different, although they are the same thing but just a bit look different. So this system is actually designed for complaint. So now when a user create a ticket, that when a user complain, we want to log that too, so we can track any reports or complaint in our events log. So for example, now you want to create log event when a user creates a ticket. So we can use this to track if the complaint has been taken care of or there's an issue during this thing. The event type is actually different from the earlier one we did. You can see that the event type is ticket creation, the log level is info, and the category is file creation. You can see that this difference between the other one and this one, because this one is actually telling us there's a file creation, while the other one was telling us that there's an authentication. So because a user is complaining is creating a file, the source is coming from ticket controller, and the message said user 1234 successfully creates a note tied to my complaint, and the tag is file and successful file creation. So this actually tells us that there was an event that happened when a user laid a complaint, so we can track the complaint and other activities. You can define more depending on what actually happened in your application. Down here I have error events, so this actually automatically capture any error that happen in your application, so you don't need to worry. Even though this actually helps us to capture any error and then log them so that we can see them in the ShieldEye platform to investigate what actually caused the error, where the error is coming from. So this actually helps us a lot. So this is my DB connection. It depends on how you create your own, but for my own tab, this is how I define mine, so that you can. This is for log, and the other one was for the general. So for the log, we are creating this for connect the log from our system to your MongoDB database. So thank you guys for watching to this end. In my next video, I'm going to explain to you how to create your MongoDB accounts, then create the user admin and the ShieldEye agent user that will move log from your MongoDB to ShieldEye platform, and how to link your log from your application to your MongoDB account. So I will see you in my next video. Bye.